One of the very first things you're taught as a kid is basic reading. I mean, I knew how to read The Very Hungry Caterpillar start to finish before I even knew how to wipe my own cheeks. And that's really just how it goes. You are pushed to read, even if you don't want to. One of the first books I ever remember reading was No, David. I mean, this kid was like the poster child for menaces. I think they just made this to show you what not to do as a kid because the amount of war crimes this kid was committing was on a different level. You know, this may sound kind of mean, but we all know David is rotten in prison right now. He is definitely eating prison food. His future was already cooked from a young age. Maybe it's the buzz cut at like 5 years old. Maybe it's the crooked teeth throwing up gang signs. I don't know what it is, but he was just a menace. I mean, seriously, who is this kid's dentist? It looks like he's chewing on bricks all day. His teeth looking like the old school Cartoon Network logo. You also had Clifford the Big Red Dog, which just made zero sense whatsoever. Like, how did the government just allow this obnoxiously large dog to stay in the possession of a little girl? The FBI had to be notified about Clifford's existence at least once. Somebody had to be walking down the street like, oh, Deb, did you smuggle crack cocaine in my coffee again? Because what is this abomination of a dog doing walking across the street casually? Like, do we need the fire department? Like, what neighborhood was totally chill about this? Because I know if this dog pooped in my front lawn, I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but I'm definitely calling somebody. No way I'm going to have this dog's, like, Subway foot-long sized turd in my yard. But enough with the books aimed towards little kids. As you started to get older into the late elementary school and middle school years, you were being forced to read boring books on the daily, and I just couldn't stand for this. Until one brilliant day where we were blessed with Jeff Kenny and Dave Pikely, also known as Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Captain Underpants. These books didn't want to make you get into a coma like the other ones did. These books were classics, but they were also pretty weird in their own right. Captain Underpants, you're telling me a half-naked superhero hangs around a bunch of fourth graders? Yeah, that has Catching a Case written all over it. In Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the main character's a sociopath. The only normal character in the entire series is Roderick, who we were convinced was the bad guy. But man, that Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie trilogy is in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's the classic. Back in the day, it was so hard getting your hands on one of these books because every time you would go to the library, they would already be gone. I mean, there would be a tumbleweed passing by that thing. You were lucky if you could even get the Spanish version. If it doesn't have pictures, I ain't reading it. But I mean, there are some examples of books that can actually pull off the no picture dynamic, but it is very rare. I mean, why do you think Dr. Seuss is so popular? He doesn't have a lot to say. You just look at the pictures, or maybe because he spits bars and they're still teaching kids his bangers to this day. Green Eggs and Ham didn't make any sense, yet it still resonates with millions to this day. Walk It in My Pocket. I mean, that was just a banger. I mean, it was bound to blow up. But you see what I'm saying. But back to Green Eggs and Ham, I remember sitting on the carpet crisscross applesauce back in the day after reading this book and thinking to myself, what kind of idiot would eat green eggs? Like, are you asking to hug a toilet? Do you want food poisoning? But to wrap this video up, most of these books were very mid. But I'd like to give a shout out to all the authors of the world who cooked for the youth when we needed it most. But like this video, or you'll be in a bad scenario, and I'll get my garden gnomes and feed you some Cheerios, throwing balls like Patrick Mahomes. That was kind of corny, but it was like all improv. I really need to script these videos.